In CBS Sports' latest 2024 NFL mock draft, the Chicago Bears come out with a haul. We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and senior draft analyst. And guys, I got to kick this intro over to my partner in crime, Keith Sanchez, Mr. LSU 2019 national champion with them LSU Tigers, Bengal Tigers. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Tigers, but not just any LSU Tigers. DP, we talking about Heisman Tigers, man. Shout out to my guy, man, Jayden Daniels, for bringing home the Heisman back to LSU where it belongs, man. But listen, more importantly, right, the other side of this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, man, we talk everything college football. We talk everything NFL football. And like we like to say over here, it all starts with the NFL draft philosophy, draft strategies, roster management. We cover it all over here on this show. And DP, we bringing it back, man. It's back. It's back. It's back. It is Mock Draft Monday. So everybody get excited. Let's get going, man. We're going through CBS's latest released mock draft. You know how we do this thing, man. First segment, we're going picks 1 through 10. Second segment, we're going picks 11 through 20. And that third segment, we're going picks 21 through 32. DP, before we get this thing started, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, Keith, let's kick it off with picks 1 through 10. This mock draft, guys, I'll let you go ahead and know who is from. It's CBS Sports' Josh Edwards did this mock, so let's get into it. Pick number 1, the Chicago Bears took Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. Number 2, the New England Patriots selecting Drake May, quarterback from North Carolina. Number 3, Marvin Harrison Jr., the Biletnikoff winner, is headed over to the Arizona Cardinals. Number 4, Sam Howell gets some protection up front with Olu Fashanu to the Washington Commanders. Number 5, Dallas Turner, edge number 1 out of Alabama to the Chicago Bears. Joe Alt goes up to shore up the offensive line for the New York Jets. Brock Bowers to the New York Giants at number 7. We have J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama, at number 8 to the Tennessee Titans. Number 9, we got Malik Nabers to the New Orleans Saints, and Jayden Daniels, Mr. Heisman himself, at pick number 10 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Keith, what stands out to you in this top 10 so far?
DP, it is fireworks with this mock draft. I'm going to start in New York with do I want to do the Jets or the Giants? Let's go with the Giants, DP. They went with Brock Bowers, right? And in the explanation, he talked about being able to potentially move on from Darren Waller and that, the salary cap and being relieved of that. But I would ask, drafting Brock Bowers, is that your biggest issue, right? I don't know if that's your biggest issue, right? Like with Darren Waller, you potentially, you may want to find another right tackle, right? J.C. Latham goes, and maybe maybe New York Giants fans don't want another Alabama offensive tackle, right? But you can address the offensive line situation, and then to see Jayden Daniels go at pick 10, right? I would think that, and I would love to, just talk to him about this, is that if he's that high on Jayden Daniels, if he can go pick 10, he can go pick 7, right? In my eyes, in the sense of the fact of giving the Giants the ability to address the quarterback situation, because we tried to be optimistic right after 2022 season, right? But before we knew what it was, and it's like after this season, right? We knew what it was when it pertains to Daniel Jones. So I'm looking at that, DP, and I'm saying to Brock Bowers, I love the player, the prospect, the selection, right? I just don't know about, is it addressing a top issue, right? Whether that's the offensive line, because what are you going to run it back with, right? Do you think Brock Bowers is going to significantly make Daniel Jones better? I don't think so, because Darren Waller is there, right? Like you tried to upgrade this wide receiver core, and it just wasn't good. He has Saquon Barkley, a top 5 running back in the backfield, and it still just wasn't good. So I think you just have to try to either get better along the offensive line or you address the quarterback situation.
Yeah, Keith, I'm with you. That when I saw that pick, that was one that stood out to me because I was just like, they have an offense, like you said, they have an offensive line and a quarterback problem. And, like you said, J.C. Latham sitting on the board. I'd rather go Latham here and get a natural. For New York Giants fans, let me settle let me calm your angst right now. J.C. Latham is an actual right tackle. Evan Neal is more of a left tackle playing right tackle. Okay, so it's two total different worlds. But Keith, I'm with you. Like getting Brock Bowers, who I love as a prospect, it's like, okay, we're still putting it with Daniel Jones, right? We're still putting up Daniel Jones behind the offensive line that you worry can that O-line protect him? I'd rather do some other things like maybe get offensive line. Like I said, go Jayden Daniels. Let's move the needle, right? And I don't think honestly, Brock Bowers is moving the needle that much for them in this like very difficult division.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And even if you're going after a skill position, well, I guess just an offensive weapon, right? This could be a potential situation where the Giants move down some. If you move to pick 10 and then you're able to get Jayden Daniels, but also able to pick up another second round pick, maybe potentially, right? And then you're able to go draft 2 wide receivers maybe in this draft, right? Or draft Jatavian Sanders at tight end and then get a wide receiver. Then now you're like, okay, cool. We really have a young nucleus with a new wide receiver, new tight end, plus Jalen Hyatt, from last year. Giving him credit, though. I want to give him credit. I like the Joe Alt pick. And, I've been texting with, some people in media, right? And they've been, getting, asking me my opinion, right? The Olu Fasano Joe Alt thing. I say this, that Joe Alt has the high floor and the floor matches the ceiling, right? Where I don't think there's going to be a high variance, and it's a safe pick. But that's what the New York Jets need, right? They need a safe pick. Like, y'all, you've consistently tried this Mekhi Becton thing, right? And then it's been a rotating door at left tackle. I think Joe Oak, you know exactly what you're getting on film. You know exactly who you're getting as a prospect. And I do think he's a plug-and-play left tackle for the next 10 years. And this is not, because I know New York Jets fans, right? You've heard this before, especially with the Mekhi Becton situation. I don't think that this is a plug-and-play in the sense of the fact of he has all the potential in the world, right? I wouldn't even use potential with Joe Alt. He has proven it already, right? Like he has done it at that level. So I like the Joe Alt selection, especially if you're going to run it back with Aaron Rodgers one more year, right? And having that blind side protected, that way, he can have that blind side protected and then moving on from there. So I wanted to give credit for the Joe Alt selection.
No, 100%, Keith. And for me, as I said in the co-open, I love what he did for the Chicago Bears. Just to start off there, getting Caleb Williams, moving on from Justin Fields, who I'm a big fan of.
Dallas Turner edge one. How do you feel about Dallas Turner edge one?
That one that caught me, but Keith, I'm not gonna lie, I don't hate that because when I look at his athleticism, right, and he's learning the counters and pass rush repertoire, like his ceiling is high, man. Like this is a high impact caliber type of athlete and player off the edge. And I like what I've seen from him on tape, especially this year, right? Last year, he was constantly getting pressure, but he wasn't closing the deal. This year, he's closing the deal and getting these sacks, as well as consistently getting into the backfield as well, Keith. So getting both of those guys, now you putting Dallas Turner opposite of Montez Sweat, who's having an impact already after the trade and the contract extension, I think that's big. But Keith, I got to go to number 9. What are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, I get it. We went to LSU. We went into our backyard, but you went to the wrong position. Okay, Derek Carr is not it. He's not the answer. I don't care how hard he works after getting banged up and injured on Sundays just to fight his way back. When we think we're about to get a little Jameis Winston, every time we think we're about to get a little Jameis, Derek Carr says, absolutely not. I'm healthy. Let me roll out here like I'm Captain America. I'm sick of it, man. Let's go ahead and get Jayden Daniels at 9. But I do like the Malik Nabers, putting him with Chris Olave, you know what I mean, and A.T. Perry. I think it could be a really good mixture, Keith. But I was just like, man, like that's tough to me because I I don't like what I've seen from Derek Carr, and I know they're tied to his contract for another year or so. But I would have loved to put Jayden Daniels here and really kind of reset this whole organization.
Yeah, I mean, and my same point with the Giants, right? Now you're talking about Jayden Daniels with only one pick, right? And
Right.
not like the Saints had to trade up. You literally could have drafted him and you just chose not to when you have a quarterback issue. So we'll see. We'll talk about that. But DP, we are on to picks 11 through 20, right? And the picks 1 through 10, they were exciting. They kind of caught me off guard of Dallas Turner being edge. One was not expecting that, right? Jayden Daniels going high as pick 10. I thought he was going to go to the back of the first round. But, man, we'll continue to keep this thing flowing, man. So coming up next is picks 11 through 20.
Whenever the game clock stops, guys, that's time to order in with DoorDash. I live in the Greenville County area of South Carolina, and guys, one of my favorite places to order in from, especially for desserts, is the Cheesecake Factory. Okay, right there in Greenville, and guys, I get it delivered right to my front door. So you're thinking about after having my chips and dips, my nachos or my burgers and fries and all the other watch party favorites that we typically indulge in during game day, to be able to get great dessert, okay, with an assortment of flavors and different varieties, to be able to get that delivered to your front door is a outstanding feature, okay? And DoorDash is going to bring that to you. But guys, get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. Get 50% off up to a $10 value. You spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter the code LOCKED23. With the 11th pick, Las Vegas Raiders select cornerback out of Clemson, Nate Wiggins. At pick 12, the Los Angeles Chargers select cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. At number 13, the Buffalo Bills select edge rusher Latu Latu out of UCLA. Now we got a little run here. We got Jared Verse, edge of the Florida State, going at 14 to the Denver Broncos. We have at 15, J.J. McCarthy. 4 quarterbacks in the top 15 picks. McCarthy goes to the Seattle Seahawks. Number 16, the Los Angeles Rams select Cooper DeJean, a corner out of Iowa. At 17, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jerzon Newton, interior defensive lineman from the University of Illinois. At number 18, we have Chop Robinson, edge from Penn State, going to the Arizona Cardinals. Number 19, the Atlanta Falcons selecting wide receiver from Washington, Rome Odunze. At pick 20, we have Amarius Mims going to the Green Bay Packers. Keith, I got to start. There's a couple places
what do you have to start at? Go ahead.
It's a couple. I'm sitting here looking at this. I'm like, man, this is some exciting stuff to look at, right? It's really good, different type of vibe here. This one right here, Keith, that number 19. If Arthur Smith is the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, keep Rome Odunze away from this man. Keep him away, Keith. Keep all these receivers. Keep the tight ends, right? Remember that video a couple years ago? Hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your receivers and your tight ends away from Arthur Smith, man. I don't want this because we don't know what the quarterback situation looks like. He's drafted Kyle Pitts in the top 5. They've drafted Drake London top 10, took Bijan Robinson top 10, and the only guy that he seems to have a semblance of knowledge on how to use is Bijan because he wants to run the ball 170 times a game. Absolutely not. Keep Rome Odunze away from the Atlanta Falcons.
Even Bijan goes through his situation where he doesn't touch the rock, right? Like
he was on my fantasy team, Keith. I traded him off before the trade deadline. I wasn't dealing with it no more.
Yeah,
I cut like Kyle Pitts as well.
Oh wow, okay. I'm
done.
You a wild manager, man. You doing your thing. You are active. But nah, man, there's a couple picks that I do like with this selection. First of all, I like the Jared Verse to the Denver Broncos. I think it's what Denver needs, right? Somebody to go opposite of Baron Browning, get them a nice 1-2 punch, right? Remember, I think that was when the Broncos, I think they had one of the better defenses when they had Von Miller and I believe it was Shane Ray. Remember that? That's a name pull right there from Missouri. I like that selection. The J.J. McCarthy one to the Seattle Seahawks. I can see that because I have to give Pete Carroll credit. I told you, coming into last season, right? I'm like, there's no way that Pete Carroll, a defensive coach, is going to be able to turn around Geno Smith. Well, guess what? He did it, right? I was wrong. He told me, Keith, let me show you what I can do with a quarterback, right? I coach football, not just defense. So you get a guy with all the tools like J.J. McCarthy, but I also like the fact of how the Seattle Seahawks operate offensively, DP, or what they want to do, in the sense of the fact of they don't mind, like it's a game by game basis, right? I think they're truly a balanced team, meaning that they'll run the ball 30 times, but they'll also throw it 40 times, right? And I think JJ McCarthy in a system that kind of like allows him to kind of unfold like in a protected way, right? Like they don't just throw everything at him. So I mean, we know they're committed to the run game. DP, they drafted 3 running backs in 2 years, right? They went crazy with the running backs. Offensive line, they addressed the entire offensive line. So I like that selection for JJ McCarthy and the Seattle Seahawks. DP, I want to ask you,
Keith, and real quick, the reason why I like it as well, because Pete Carroll, to me, it would be the perfect coach for JJ McCarthy, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna uplift him. He's gonna motivate his guys. You're never gonna question if Pete Carroll has your back, right? You're never gonna question that. When you can question that from a lot of different coaches, and I think that'll be perfect for JJ McCarthy and his development in the NFL.
I agree 100%. I want to ask you about the very next pick, DP. Can you scroll up just a little bit? How do you feel about Cooper DeJean going that high, or at this pick? Because I feel like it's a variance of how people feel about Cooper DeJean, right? Like some people are saying he shouldn't make it out of the top 20. Some people are saying he's a second, third round pick. I want to ask you, Los Angeles Rams pick, what is that? Pick 16. How you feel about Cooper DeJean going there?
Man, this one was tough when I saw it, right? Because I thought about just some of the other corners that was going to be on the board and available, and I was like, man, is Cooper really that much better than Denzel Burke? And for me, I think Cooper's also very scheme dependent in terms of if you're playing him. Like some people say he's a safety. I could see that, but I think he is a corner, and I think he's a cover 3 corner. Talking about, half zone turn alignment, bail drop, bail technique, where he can keep his eyes on the quarterback, right? And it allows him to, he doesn't have to worry about opening the gate, right? The gate's already open. His hips are already open and in a level, a place of comfort,
Right.
whether when you put them in press man coverage and you're telling him to now mirror guys that are quick-footed, oily-hipped, really quick twitch, like he does struggle with some change of direction stuff. So I'd rather put him in cover 3 in that kind of off-ball half zone turn. I think with the pass rush, if AD is still there, Aaron Donald, right? Byron Young is coming along as a rookie, being an impact player. They can get the pass rush going. Cooper DeJean has good ball skills too. Like he'll drive on the football. He can catch the football with good hands, in my opinion. So he knows how to take the ball away from opposing offenses. So I don't hate it. It's just like, man, this was a little high for me, Keith.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie. It's the top 20.
You know
high,
who
but I
Cooper
do like the
DeJean,
player though.
like where I'm kind of at with him as a prospect. I'm kind of somewhere in between Paulson Adebo and Caillou Blue Kelly, right? Where I like it, I don't know if I love the situation, and I'm afraid that in certain situations you may not show as well, right? Like, and I think that's kind of where I'm at with Cooper DeJean.
No, I'm with you, Keith. My last 2 takeaways here and from picks 11 through 20, man, 17 to 18. First of all, 17 for the Cincinnati Bengals, who their defensive line is ferocious as it is, to get Jerzon Newton and slide him at that interior kind of 3 tech in their even 4-man front pass rush with potential set with having Sam Hubbard on at one end. I would love to put him right beside Trey Hendrickson and talk about you have to slide protection. I get to overload blitz you. I get to like send pressure, simulate pressure. Man, like that would make that defense even better, especially with the young ballers that they got in the secondary from corner to safety. I love that pick, Keith. And then, of course, our guy, Chop Robinson, man. You talk about giving Jonathan Gannon a due. You drafted BJ Ojulari on day 2 of this past draft of 2023. Now you go and add Chop Robinson, right? The Cardinals are like, let's go to the Big Ten. We're going to take Marvin Harrison in the top 5. Now let's go get Chop Robinson. That explosiveness, the bend, the juice that he's going to bring off the ball. Keith, we talked about it. JJ McCarthy versus Penn State, they wanted to throw the ball early in that game, right? Chop Robinson's the reason they started to run it. because he was whooping those tackles like they stole something from him, man. So for me, Keith, I love those two picks, pick 17 and 18, Jerson Newton to the Cincinnati Bengals, and then Chop Robinson to the Arizona Cardinals.
No, I'm right there with you, DP. I like the Chop Robinson pick. I think that kind of, like you said, is a very complimentary pick, and it makes sense, right? And that's what you want to do in the NFL draft. You want to make sense.
Two explosive edge rushers, him and BJ. BJ off the ball, man. That's good stuff.
That's big time right there. With DP, let's keep this thing going. Let's keep it flowing, man. Coming up next is picks 21 through 32 of the mock drafts from CBS Sports.
Today's episode of Locked On NFL Draft has been brought to you by PrizePicks. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Guys, with basketball season here and in full swing, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes two or more players from different sports and leagues. For example, LeBron James plus George Kittle at a 12.5 combo of three-pointers made plus receptions. Do you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePick community each and every week. This week, tonight on PrizePicks, guys, I'm taking on Monday Night Football Will Levis for less than 208.5 passing yards versus the Miami Dolphins. Guys, all you need to do is very simple. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. At pick 21, the Minnesota Vikings take JT Tuimoloau from defensive end from Ohio State. At pick 22, Indianapolis Colts select Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. At pick 23, the Pittsburgh Steelers select offensive tackle from Oregon State, Talise Fuaga. From Oregon State, big 6'6", 330-pound man. Denzel Burke, cornerback from Ohio State, is going to the Houston Texans. At pick 25, Patrick Mahomes get another wide receiver, Keon Coleman out of Florida State. Another wide receiver off the board at pick 26 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Give me Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. Safety at pick 27 for the Dallas Cowboys, Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota. At pick 28, Troy Fautanu, interior offensive line, offensive tackle to the Detroit Lions from Washington. Doesn't matter. Great player. Go ahead and pull him in your lineup. At pick 29, Graham Barton, offensive tackle, interior offensive line from Duke, going to the San Francisco 49ers. At pick 30, Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback from Toledo to the Baltimore Ravens. Pick 31, the Miami Dolphins select Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle from Arizona. And at pick 32, Kingsley Suamataia, right tackle for BYU to the Philadelphia Eagles. Keith, there's a lot of action in this third part of this mock draft, man.
And there's a lot of offensive linemen going too.
Yeah,
right?
it's nine offensive linemen in this first round.
And I could very well see that. And I'm pretty sure that's a record. Should be a record for
very close to it, if not.
Yeah. So I want to stop right there at Talise, right? The offensive tackle from Oregon State. I like this pick because he's a great run blocker, right? And that's what this Pittsburgh Steelers offense needs, right? They need identity. And you start building this thing like chip by chip, block by block, right? So you pair him up, DP, with Amarius Mims. Now you have two of the more athletic, physical, violent temperament guys, right? They have
Broderick Jones.
Yeah. Wait, what is it?
You meant Broderick Jones. He's like,
yeah. I'm sorry, I meant Broderick Jones. I'm sorry. The Georgia offensive lineman, right? They're rolling. They had a pipeline. Broderick Jones. I'm sorry. And you know how I felt about Broderick Jones last year. I thought he was probably the most talented one. Like his ceiling was the highest, and they're getting that out of him right now, right? And you throw Talise in there. I think, man, you're talking about rebuilding this Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. Now you can move forward because I don't think the Steelers are going to move on from Kenny Pickett after this year. But what you need to do is bring in a new offensive coordinator and then bring in the offensive line, get the run game established. And then even if you want to go spread, DP, because we've seen the best versions of Kenny Pickett, right, when he was in empty, right? And he was kind of that guy that could just pick apart a defense, right? So you put him in empty, but if you're going 5-man protections, you need offensive linemen that can block. So I love that. I love that selection, being able to pair him up with Broderick Jones, and you be able to move forward.
100%. He, and Josh said it in his blurb, in his explanation. Because remember, Broderick Jones playing right tackle right now. You flip him back to the left side. You got Fuaga at right tackle. Now these guys are playing a natural position, and Kenny Pickett's going to feel good. Then you can go to the free agent market, Keith, like you said, brick by brick, and add some interior offensive line help. Now this offensive line looks vastly different than it has over the last 2 to 3 years, where it's been kind of the Achilles heel of the offense. Keith, for me, pick 25. The Kansas City Chiefs getting Keon Coleman, Keith.
That would be crazy.
Now, I'm a little torn on this because I like Keon Coleman, right? I like him as a prospect, but it's like it feels a little redundant, right? When you got Rashee Rice, who's more like run after catch, contested catch guy. I felt like you would want to get more of a speed threat to kind of give you that yin and yang?
Yeah. So this, and maybe this is how we felt about the receivers coming out of college, right? Like I view Keon Coleman as a higher graded prospect, right? Like I view him like as I think his ceiling is like top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. I don't know if Rashee Rice's ceiling is that high. You get what I'm trying to say? I get what you're saying, like as far as the redundant skill set. I just think that Keon Coleman, you're drafting a number one. I think Rashee Rice is potentially a number 2 wide receiver, right? Like kind of at best, and don't quote me and don't hold me to that. Because obviously when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, he can turn anybody to a wide receiver. Almost like, remember when Peyton Manning had Pierre Garçon, and then it was like, was it like Whalen? And then he just took anybody. He was like, you know what? We lost whoever. You're a number 1 wide receiver. Watch me give you 1,000 yards, right? Thanks. So it's definitely crazy. But let's keep this thing going, man. I do agree with the Kansas City Chiefs and Keon Coleman. Can you scroll down a little bit more? I think it's pick 29. I like this pick for the San Francisco 49ers, and it's committing to, and the pick is Graham Barton to the San Francisco 49ers, right? And Graham Barton, the offensive tackle from Duke. It's people talking about this guy can play tackle, guard, or center, right?
He's this year's Peter Skoronski, Keith.
Yeah, he's this year's Peter Skoronski. So if you guys have watched Peter Skoronski last year, I think you can almost copy and paste a draft report, right, for these guys. But I think that he helps just fill the hole wherever the 49ers hole may be, right? And they've talked about this offensive line that, it may be some interior offensive line help that they need, a little bit of help at tackle, right? And I think he can play it at a high level. It was much like the pick that I talked about, Joe Alt, right at the beginning of the podcast, where this is a safe pick. You're just knowing exactly what you're getting. And people are going to talk about arm length and go through that and all that whole thing. But the question is, are you drafting an NFL player that's going to start for you? And that answer, when you're talking about the back end of the first round, that answer is yes for the 49ers. He's going to contribute, and he's going to play well in this scheme.
No, 100%. I like that pick. The only thing for me is I like the pick because, like you said, it's committing to who they are. I would have loved for them to get a right tackle like Kingsley, because their right tackle is kind of their weak link on the offensive line right now. But nonetheless, like getting a guy like Graham Barton is big, Keith. It's huge for this offense. They get to continue doing what they do. Man, it's so many offensive linemen.
I know. I mean, it finishes off, right? You got Troy Fontananu with the Lions, Graham Barton. You got Jordan Morgan, which is a good pick for the Miami Dolphins because they've been needing to get offensive tackle help. And then your boy Kingsley that you just talked about, right? He's going at offensive tackle
Lane Johnson replacement, Keith. Lane Johnson replacement.
Definitely. And it's going to be fun and exciting. And I like this mock draft because honestly, I feel like it has some of them you look at and it's all perspective, right? But you feel like, I don't know if this is realistic, right? But I feel like this is realistic with just the amount of offensive linemen that, were drafted, then the skill position players. I will say this, DP, we didn't get no Xavier Leggett. We didn't get no Xavier Worthy. So that's something to definitely look out for as we go through these mock draft Mondays. Like I said, we are back with that to see which guys, as we go through the mock drafts, are higher on the wide receiver prospects than the offensive tackle prospects.
100%. And Keith, before we close out, Tyler Nubin, I love this pick to the Dallas Cowboys, man. When you got Trayvon Diggs coming back healthy, Deron Bland, 2 interception ball hawk machines, and you add this guy who could do the exact same thing from the safety position. Oh man, you know what I mean? With Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, hopefully Mozzie Smith takes that step as a pass rusher next year, so he's playing more on third downs and creating interior pressure. I think they still have Sam Williams from Ole Miss that they drafted. That front being able to get pressure and creating erratic, quick impulse decisions from the quarterback, having a Tyler Nubin over the top of, in the coverage, over the top of Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland. Is like, man, no spot on the field in this secondary is going to be safe from getting the pass intercepted. So I really like that.
Yep, I agree. I agree with DP. That wraps up another show, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, man, where I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code, man. That is DP Damian Parsons, man, my co-host. You can find him on X at DP_NFL, man. If you like the show, hit that like button. If you want to comment and talk about this mock draft, go ahead and drop a comment, man. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are here 24/7, 365. And like we always like to see, man, y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Like he said, listen, guys, tell us what's your favorite pick out of this mock draft. Tell us what pick you hated the most. Talk to us, like he said, because we talk back. But go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day shot for being our everydayers. On tomorrow's show, we have Rookie Report. We're going to have some game ball. We're going to get into NFL draft storylines, looking at the updated draft order and everything. We got all that coming for you on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.